This wasn't supposed to be controversial, but somehow Caitlin Clark managed to break the internet without even stepping on a basketball court. Welcome back to Her Hoops, where we cut through the noise, the agendas, and the wild fan fantasies. And today's chaos? Oh, it is prime entertainment. Because one single Team USA post, a simple projected starting lineup featuring Caitlin Clark, has triggered entire fan bases into full-blown meltdown mode. Paige Bueckers fans? Exploding. Chelsea Gray supporters? Offended.
Team USA and the roster, because a social media post went out there and it's actually caused some controversy, while I'm like, really? This is controversial? This is the take? And then I saw some of the choices that some fans are making out there where you can tell there's blatant agenda involved. And I just wouldn't think this would actually be a source of...
Some corners of WNBA Twitter calling it rage bait. And we're all sitting here like, this? This is the thing y'all are losing your minds over. But that's the insane part. The moment Team USA's preliminary training camp roster dropped, the Clark discourse instantly mutated into something bigger, louder, and way more dramatic than anything the committee ever imagined. Because for the first time since her groin injury shut down her 2025 season, Caitlin Clark is about to re-enter a competitive basketball environment.
It can turn into a sewer very quickly. So Team USA's roster, of course, came out the other day. I did a couple of videos about it. We know Caitlin Clark finally going to emerge in a competitive setting in a training camp that they're going to have right here. Let me just give you the specifics. Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark hinted that she would participate in Team USA basketball activities during the WNBA offseason, following the conclusion of her team's 2025 campaign.
And the question that should have been simple, should she start, has somehow turned into World War III on the timeline. You've got one side saying, Clark is the most dynamic offensive engine in the game. It's not even a debate. You've got another side yelling, Paige Bueckers deserves that spot. Clark hasn't played since July. And then there's the group that just throws Chelsea Gray's name into the conversation because, honestly, nobody knows why at this point. This isn't basketball analysis anymore.
To the 2026 FIBA World Cup qualifying tournament from March 11 through 17. While it's currently unclear whether Clark will indeed compete in this training camp or tournament, she will certainly be in Durham, North Carolina from December 12th through 14th as part of USA Basketball Women's National Team training camp, as well as her Fever teammate Aaliyah Boston and her head coach Stephanie White. This has prompted a ton of excitement, largely because Clark hasn't been...
This is fandom tribal warfare. And the craziest part? The post didn't say anything outrageous. It didn't disrespect anyone. It didn't erase anyone's accomplishments. It simply suggested a starting five featuring Clark, Boston, Copper, Young, and Hamby. That's it. Yet somehow that post alone was enough to ignite Paige versus Caitlin, old guard versus new wave, traditionalists versus modern fans, all in one chaotic timeline explosion. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Fans debate whether Clark should start on this team. I don't know how this is even a debate. This post got put up as a potential starting five. All right, Caitlin Clark at point guard, Kaylee Copper, Jackie Young, Derica Hamby, and Aaliyah Boston. And then, of course, these are the reserves on the team, right?
But before we break down the madness piece by piece, make sure you hit like, smash that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Her Hoops deep dive. Because trust me, this drama is just getting started. To understand why this Team USA moment detonated the timeline like a live grenade, you have to zoom out. Because this isn't just about one graphic, one lineup, or one training camp. This is about years of tension, resentment, gatekeeping, and shifting power inside women's basketball, all colliding the moment Caitlin Clark's name appears anywhere near Team USA. Let's start with the basics.
And I don't want to throw Angel supporters in this because I've seen a lot of actually put Angel and Caitlin on the court at the same time, but somehow this got labeled as rage bait. And I'm not sure how this is controversial, but here we go with some of the dumbass takes that came out of this, right?
Team USA dropped the preliminary roster for the December training camp, and for the first time in months, Caitlin Clark is officially back in the mix. After missing the end of her rookie season with that groin injury and that random ankle issue that popped up out of nowhere, fans have been starving to see her return to real basketball activity. And the December camp in Durham, North Carolina is the first step. Alongside her, Aaliyah Boston, her Fever teammate, Stephanie White, her head coach, a handful of veterans, rising stars, and players coming off injuries. Standard stuff. Nothing controversial there. Until the fan-made projected starters post hit social media. Suddenly, the internet decided this wasn't just a training camp. This was the battlefield where everyone needed to plant their flag. Paige Bueckers fans jumped in immediately, loud, emotional, and ready for war. In their minds, Paige didn't just deserve consideration, she deserved the spotlight, the starting job, and the narrative. Clark being slotted in at point guard? Unacceptable. Then came the Chelsea Gray defenders, insisting that the veteran should automatically start despite coming off injury and not having played high-level basketball in what feels like forever. And the tone of their arguments? Less about basketball, more about status, hierarchy, and loyalty to the old guard. And that's the core of the issue. This isn't about who's actually the best fit for Team USA. It's about fan bases fighting for relevance, validation, and control of the narrative. Because the rise of Caitlin Clark didn't just change the WNBA's popularity, it disrupted the entire fan power structure that had existed for years. And the people who once dictated the discourse? They don't like that their influence is fading. That's why a harmless lineup graphic suddenly felt like an attack, not on players, but on fandom identities. And trust me, the breakdown gets even messier from here. So let's break this down piece by piece, because the reactions to that simple starting five post weren't just dramatic. They revealed exactly how fractured the women's basketball landscape has become. The projected lineup was straightforward. Caitlin Clark, Kalia Copper, Jackie Young, De'Erica Hamby, Aaliyah Boston. A logical, modern, balanced group with shooting, pace, versatility, and playmaking. But the second it hit social media, all hell broke loose. Take one. Paige over Caitlin! The Paige Bueckers fans were the first to detonate. To them, Paige isn't just a player. She's a movement, a myth, an untested superhero who they believe automatically deserves a starting spot over Clark. Despite Paige not even being in the WNBA yet, and despite Clark already breaking statistical and popularity records in her rookie season. Their argument ignored the one thing that separates the two. Caitlin Clark is already one of the most impactful offensive creators in the world. Meanwhile, Paige is still projecting, still hypothetical, still potential. But logic didn't matter. Emotion did. Take two. Chelsea Gray has earned it. Then came the Chelsea Gray loyalists, determined to paint Caitlin starting over a veteran as a disrespectful move. Here's the problem. Chelsea Gray hasn't played competitive basketball in ages due to injury. And when she was healthy, she wasn't operating in the same tier of offensive responsibility that Clark already carries. Caitlin's combination of pace, passing vision, and pull-up gravity makes her the ideal modern point guard. Chelsea Gray's methodical, slower style doesn't match what Team USA needs right now, especially if they want to maximize transition play. Take three. The turnovers crowd. These are the people who believe saying Clark leads the league in turnovers is some kind of mic drop moment. They ignore context, pace, usage rate, and responsibilities, all the things actual basketball minds understand. Clark isn't turning the ball over because she's sloppy. She's turning it over because she's doing everything. And guess what? She also set the assist per game record. Turnovers are the tax you pay for being the engine. Take four. This post is rage bait. This one is hilarious. A simple graphic becomes rage bait only because fans chose to rage. The post wasn't inflammatory. The fan bases were. What we're seeing isn't about basketball analysis. It's about fandom insecurity colliding with Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise. And once you understand that, the escalation makes perfect sense. Here's where everything truly went off the rails. Because once the initial reactions started rolling in, the debates didn't just get louder, they got personal. The discourse around Caitlin Clark didn't stay grounded in basketball. It turned into a referendum on legacy, loyalty, and who gets to control the future of women's hoops. The Paige Bueckers inflation spiral. Let's start with the wildest escalation. The sudden aggressive elevation of Paige Bueckers into a must-start superstar for Team USA, before she has even played a single professional minute. We're talking about fan takes insisting Paige should start over Jackie Young, Kahleah Copper, Aaliyah Boston, and of course, Caitlin Clark. And here's the crazy part. These fans aren't arguing technique, skill fit, or system need. They're arguing vibes, nostalgia, and the idea of Paige. Paige is wildly talented, nobody denies that. But the way her supporters reacted? It exposed a deeper insecurity. Caitlin Clark is reshaping women's basketball faster than anyone expected, and some fan bases feel threatened. Instead of saying that out loud, they mask it by pretending Clark's starting role is a controversial take. It isn't. The Chelsea Gray Legacy Shield. Then comes the second wave of escalation, the Chelsea Gray defenders. Suddenly, anyone suggesting Clark could start over Gray wasn't just wrong, they were disrespectful, uninformed, or pushing an agenda. The energy wasn't about basketball. It was about guarding the old hierarchy. Chelsea Gray has had an incredible career, but she's coming off major injury. She hasn't been in peak form, and Team USA needs pace, movement, and transition creation. It's not an insult to say Clark fits that model better. It's just true. But in the mind of the old guard fan base, admitting that means admitting something even bigger. The era is shifting, and Caitlin Clark is the reason. The fake outrage economy. Here's where it escalated to pure comedy. A harmless graphic suddenly turned into rage bait, W propaganda, and Clark favoritism. Not because the post was extreme, but because some fans needed something to attack. They needed a villain. They needed a narrative. They needed conflict. And they chose that post as their battleground. What this reveals is simple. Caitlin Clark doesn't just attract attention, she exposes the fractures women's basketball already had. Her presence forces the sport to confront uncomfortable truths. Who deserves the spotlight? Who gets elevated? Who has to adjust? Who is losing influence? The escalation isn't really about Caitlin, it's about what her rise represents, and who can't handle it. To really understand why this debate spiraled out of control, you have to dig into the actual basketball behind the noise, the on-court realities that fan bases keep ignoring while they scream past each other online. Because when you break it down from a technical standpoint, the argument becomes even clearer, and the outrage becomes even more ridiculous. Caitlin Clark's game translates to Team USA. Immediately. Team USA's identity has always been built on three pillars: pace, space, pressure. And Caitlin Clark fits that philosophy better than almost any guard in the pool. Her passing vision alone is transformative. She collapses defenses with her drives, drags bigs into no man's land with her logo pull-up gravity, and unlocks transition opportunities simply by existing on the floor. You don't have to design an offense around her, you just plug her in and the game opens up. That's the difference. Chelsea Gray is a master of half-court orchestration. Slow, methodical, brilliant in her reads. But Team USA isn't built to walk the ball up. They steamroll teams with speed. They run you off the floor. They overwhelm you. Caitlin is gasoline on that fire. The turnover illusion. A big chunk of the anti-Clark arguments revolve around turnovers, which makes sense only if you don't understand usage, tempo, or offensive burden. Clark didn't lead the league in turnovers because she's reckless. She led because she touches the ball more than anyone, creates more than anyone, and is asked to perform high degree of difficulty actions every possession. Elite creators turn it over. So did Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, and Sabrina Ionescu at similar usage levels. Turnovers aren't a flaw here. They're proof she's carrying an entire offense. The Paige Bueckers mystique problem. Paige is special. Everyone knows it. But her role is still theoretical. She hasn't had to manage pro spacing, physicality, or the pressure of international competition. Clark has. Clark's film tells you exactly who she is on the court. Paige's film tells you who she could be. Potential is exciting, but Team USA decisions are built on production. The real threat, the shifting power structure. What's really driving the conflict is that Clark represents the future, a faster, modern, analytics-friendly version of basketball that threatens the comfort zone of older fan bases and slower, legacy-style players. Her rise isn't just symbolic, it's practical. It forces coaches, committees, and fans to reconsider what elite guard play looks like. She isn't replacing Paige, she isn't disrespecting Chelsea Gray, she's redefining the role entirely. And the people who don't want that change? They're the ones making this conversation emotional instead of logical. Here's where this conversation stops being about one roster, one training camp, or one starting lineup graphic. Because the reaction to Caitlin Clark's Team USA inclusion reveals something much bigger happening across the entire landscape of women's basketball. This isn't just a debate about who should start. This is a clash between eras, ideologies, and visions for what the sport should become. The old guard versus the new wave. For nearly a decade, women's basketball had a very stable hierarchy. Veterans controlled the narrative. Legacy media voices controlled the conversation. Certain players, rightly respected, were seen as untouchable, immune from critique, and always deserving of priority. Then Caitlin Clark showed up and bulldozed all of that. Her arrival brought a massive influx of fans, media attention, revenue, and cultural relevance. Suddenly, the sport wasn't just part of the conversation, it was the conversation. But that shift came with tension, because new fans don't care about the old hierarchies. They care about production, entertainment, skill, and star power. So when a fan graphic puts Clark in the starting lineup, older fans don't see it as basketball analysis, they see it as a threat. A threat to the way things used to be. A threat to the players who once had unquestioned seniority. A threat to the voices who once controlled every narrative. The Paige Bueckers phenomenon shows the divide clearly. The explosion of Paige versus Clark discourse shows exactly how divided the fan ecosystem has become. Paige is loved by longtime women's basketball fans. Clark is beloved by the new mainstream audience. So when Clark is placed in the spotlight, it feels, to some, like Paige is losing cultural ground before she even plays a WNBA minute. This isn't a basketball conflict, it's an identity conflict. The Chelsea Gray debate is a fight about legacy. Chelsea Gray supporters aren't arguing basketball either. They're defending what they see as the old rules. The idea that veterans must always come first. That hierarchy is sacred. That past success guarantees future roles. But Team USA can't operate on seniority politics. They have to build the best roster for now, not for 2018. And that's where Clark becomes the flashpoint. She represents the future, whether they like it or not. The broader impact on women's basketball. This controversy proves one thing with absolute clarity. Women's basketball is no longer a niche. It's no longer predictable. It's no longer controlled by a single group of fans. It's growing, fast, and growth creates friction. Caitlin Clark didn't cause that. She just accelerated it. And every debate, every argument, every trending topic around her is a sign that women's basketball is entering a new era. One with higher standards, wider audiences, and bigger stakes. The future isn't coming, the future is here. At the end of the day, this entire firestorm over one simple Team USA lineup graphic tells us more about us, the fans, the media, the culture, than it does about Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, Chelsea Gray, or anyone else involved. Because the truth is this, Caitlin Clark didn't create controversy, she exposed it. She exposed the insecurity of fan bases who feel their era slipping away. She exposed the fragility of narratives that used to go unchallenged. She exposed the discomfort some people feel when the sport grows faster than they can control. And she exposed how quickly the women's basketball community can divide, not because of skill or logic or fit, but because of emotion. Let's be honest. If Paige Bueckers ends up being a superstar at the pro level, that's amazing for the game. If Chelsea Gray gets healthy and plays like the veteran force she is, that's incredible for the game. If Clark becomes the engine of Team USA's next generation, that's historic for the game. This isn't a zero-sum world, but social media acts like it is. Instead of appreciating the insane level of talent entering this era, Clark, Bueckers, Reese, Jackson, Brink, Boston, Young, some fans feel the need to pit them against each other before they even share the same jersey. Why? Because conflict is easier than nuance. Because tribalism is easier than analysis. Because people cling to their favorites like their identities depend on it. But here's the reality. Caitlin Clark starting for Team USA isn't controversial. It's inevitable. Her playmaking is unmatched. Her offensive gravity is generational. Her statistical impact is undeniable. Her fit with Team USA's style is obvious. This isn't disrespect to Paige. This isn't a slight against Chelsea Gray. This isn't shade toward the veterans. It's simply basketball truth. And the fans who refuse to accept that truth aren't defending the game. They're defending the version of the game they're afraid of losing. But here's the good news. Women's basketball is entering a golden era. An era filled with stars who sell out arenas, break television records, dominate highlight reels, and force the world to pay attention. And as the sport grows, these debates will get even louder, even more passionate, even more unhinged. That's not a bad thing. That's proof the sport is finally where it deserves to be. Caitlin Clark didn't break the WNBA. She didn't divide Team USA. She didn't create the fan wars. She just made the spotlight bright enough for everyone to finally see what was already there. And if one harmless graphic can send the entire internet into chaos, just wait until Clark actually steps back onto the court in Team USA colors. The story is just beginning. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like the video, subscribe to Her Hoops, and hit that notification bell, because we're diving even deeper into this new era of women's basketball all season long.